the playoffs the last 2 years has nothing to do with Dak Prescott. It's everything to do with team building a roster. It's got nothing to do with him. You don't have good players, you're not making a roster. You're not making a run at a playoff run. That's like saying, well, the Jets, they didn't make the playoffs, so that's on Geno Smith or whoever quarterback's in there. Nobody on the Jets is making the playoffs because the team stinks. They gave up on Baker, is what they did. If his last name wasn't Sanders, nobody would give a shit. Correct. If his name was Smith, he'd be fired. Speaking of not good players, the Wingo looks to not have such depth. I thought they did a nice job on you in the joint practices that you value more. She says, I know you rock with John Lynch, but I've always questioned him about the Trey Lance pick, respectfully. Just saying, bro. I think that was more Kyle Shanahan. The Cowboys not extending Dak for cap relief says a lot. Who says they're not going to extend him? They restructured and gave him more guarantee. Did they restructure Dak's contract in the offseason, which meant they gave him more guaranteed money? Did the Cowboys guarantee more money? Yes. The Cowboys guaranteed significantly more money this offseason with Dak Prescott's contract so that they could sign and give Quinnen Williams and George Pickens that franchise tag and turn around and give Tyler Smith. They didn't give him they did not give him new money. Instead, they restructured his existing money. To create cap space, the Cowboys converted here $38.2 million of Prescott's scheduled 2026 base salary into restructured bonus, freeing up nearly $30.5 million. So they gave him $38.2 million and restructured that as a bonus. So Prescott, on top of his contract, made $38 million. They just took the money and gave it to him as a it's funny, you know what? That's something the Eagles could have done to Jalen Hurts. They could have added money this offseason here to the 2027. Instead of the $20 million they owed him, they could have added the 30 and added 30 more and fully guaranteed it, but they didn't. They didn't. You can't blame the 49ers for the Trey Lance pick. Many teams would have picked him. They just happened to fall into Purdy. Well, AZ, you can blame them. They made a trade with the Dolphins. And they traded 3 ones away for him. They weren't in that position. They traded up to that position. And basically gave the Miami Dolphins 3 first-round draft choices. What do you mean? They traded up in that draft. I love when people say prove it year for so-and-so. This year, so-and-so has to have no excuses about veteran players. Just go watch the tape if you want to know who they are. All that does is guarantee the salary he was going to make anyway. No, but it wasn't, if you cut the guy, you were not guaranteed to make that money. They added more guaranteed money. Dude, when you sign a contract, the last number's the phony contract. What's the guaranteed money is the only real money. When a player signs a 3-year, 4-year, $255 million deal, that's not the money. What's the guaranteed money? That back end's the phony money. Like here. Most players don't actually fulfill their contracts. Jalen's contract, $179.3 million. That's what his value was, with an opportunity to make $255. The total guarantees and the fully guarantees at signing was $110. The total guarantees $179.3. That's the real money. That other shit, fantasy stuff. If they blow him out at the end of this year and he's not the quarterback at 27, he didn't fulfill the $255 million contract. I really have a problem with AJ wearing Hurts as number one. I know John McMullen says it's about football, but you don't do that to a friend if there's nothing more underlining. Kim, of course it's something. I take the number of the guy I was bitching at. Why wouldn't you think there's something to that? I'm not saying you don't, hon. Why wouldn't you? I would. I'm the number one guy now in New England. I was the number one guy. You could tell what kind of ego AJ has. AJ thought he was the most important person in the Philadelphia Eagles locker room. He thought he was the most important player. And in theory, he probably was. But when you're a guy like that, with that great power, comes with the responsibility of handling yourself. And he couldn't handle himself, being the number one guy. Now, he's the number one guy in New England, and he wants everyone to know it. Hey, if you're the number one guy, you don't have to tell everybody you're the number one guy. Everyone knows it. I don't need a number. You think when Michael Jordan walked on the floor, he wore number one? Everyone knew he was the guy. People, okay? Yeah, you keep believing that. That's not what I said either. I said what AJ believes, dude. Not what reality is. AJ doesn't live in reality. Stop talking like you're making sense. You've got to think with ego and think like AJ. AJ doesn't think Drake May is the most important person in that locker room. AJ Brown thinks he's the most important person in that locker room. Okay? Yeah, I love, like, who the fuck is Booty? What is his name? Well, yeah. You know what I compare him to? Dontavian Wicks. The guy they got rid of is Dontavian Wicks. Mountain Kennesaw Booty. 551 yards. The big old Mountain Kennesaw Booty.